Hi guys, welcome to today's session. Today we want to talk about factors to consider when selecting a homeschooling curriculum. I have not arranged them in order, but I have just compiled some of the things that I considered when selecting a homeschooling curriculum. The first one is the budget. You need to consider the costs of textbooks, online subscriptions, workbooks, supplies, field trips, and every other thing that comes with the particular curriculum that you have chosen. Curriculums are different, and as we will be going through them, we will see how different they are and how they vary in terms of costing from one to another. The second point, another thing that you need to consider is faith and values. Depending on what faith and values you want to teach the child, you need to choose a curriculum that aligns with your beliefs and values. For Christians, there are Christian homeschooling curriculums. For Muslims, there are Muslims homeschooling curriculums. So depending on what you want your child to know or to be taught, it is good to look at also the faith and values that these curriculums come with. The third thing that you need to look at is the accreditation and requirements, and these depends with the country. Different countries have different requirements, different educational requirements, and so you need to know what applies to your situation. There are some curriculums that are not accredited by certain governments. And so if you are a homeschooling parent and you just go for any other thing, you may find yourself landing into trouble with the government, because since it's not something that is accredited by the country, they will see it as negligence, you not educating that child, because education is among the most important things that a child needs to have. Another thing that you need to look into is the flexibility of the curriculum. Can the curriculum be adjusted or adapted to your child's pace? Does it allow acceleration in strong subjects, and extra support in challenging ones? This is key because every child is different. Some children will learn some things faster. Some children will learn them slower. Some children, will do well in some subjects and they may not do well, in other subjects. Other subjects may require time, more support, and all that. So you need to know, or you need to look at the flexibility of that curriculum. This will help prevent stalling the child if the child is strong in some subjects, or even rushing the child if the child needs more time. Another thing that you need to look into is the assessment methods. Check how progress is measured, whether they are tests, projects, portfolios, observation, whatever it is. Check their assessment methods and see if they are going to work for you. One of the most common questions that many people do ask is, how are these children being tested? And at some point when they want to pursue a course like, let's say, medicine or engineering, how do you go about it? The assessment method of the curriculum that you're going to choose will help answer that question, because you will see if indeed it's something that can make the child be enrolled in these tertiary units. Another thing that you need to look into as a parent is the age and developmental readiness of the child. The curriculum you choose should match your child's developmental level, not just their age. These milestones vary from one child to another. They vary from one family to another. And so it's not just about choosing a homeschooling curriculum because so and so is doing that, but is also looking at your child's developmental level and you see what is going to work for them. Some parents will not want their children to be subjected to gadgets before they get to a certain age. So you want to, if you know that's something that's a line, or rather that's something that you want. So it means you have to look at the curriculum that will offer what you need, or what you want. Okay. Another thing that you need to look into is the support and resources availability. Does that curriculum that you're using have resources that will help you as a parent, or the teacher, or the person who is implementing the curriculum to have their best? Don't go for a curriculum that does not have resources availability. Yeah, whether it is lesson plans, teacher guides, online communities, customer support system. You really need to look into this, so that if you need any help, if you feel you're stranded by something, you're stuck somewhere, it is easy for you, to get support, or to get whatever is needed for you to continue in this journey. Another thing that you need to look into is time commitment. How much time are you expected to devote, teaching, or how much time is the child expected to devote in learning every day? Some programs require heavy parental involvement. Some programs are more independent, like you just log in the child into the system, and then they can continue from there. They can continue from there. So that is also something that you really need to look into as a parent, because depending on how much time is realistically needed, that will affect, the kind of education the child will have, especially if you don't have time. If the curriculum is heavy and requires significant time, and you don't have time, it simply means that child will struggle a lot in either submitting their assignments. That child will struggle a lot with having their courses done. They will struggle a lot with having overdues. And you see, overdues is one of the things that really helps the homeschooling uh, organization that you have, or rather the homeschooling system that you have chosen, to monitor how the child is doing. You also need you also need to consider your child's interests and strengths, and choose a curriculum that incorporates your child's interests and can increase their motivation and engagement. And this is different from every child. Yeah, it's different from every child, But one thing that I have come to see consistently in most of these homeschooling curriculums, they are able, or they are structured in a way that they can incorporate so many interests and strengths of children. So you don't have to use different curriculums for different children. Yeah, you can find one that cuts across, cuts across. So it's equally important to look into that. Also, you need to look at the teaching methods or the teaching approach. We are going to have a part 2 of this where I'm going to look at different methods, but just to list them, we have the textbook based, curriculums. We have the Charlotte Mason, we have classical education, Montessori, unit studies, and schooling. Yeah, so there are so many. So you need to look into that which fits your family's teaching style. Because you know what suits your children, you know what will work for you. Also, you need to consider what are your educational goals as a parent. What do you want your child to achieve academically, spiritually, socially? At some point, would you want them to have national exams? Do you want them to go to college? Do you want them to have a specific career path? With this in mind, it can help you choose something that will work for your child, something that will make it easy for them to pursue these goals and to make them achievable. Your child's learning style also matters. There's some children, they do well as auditory learners. Others, are visual learners. Others are kinesthetic learners. Visual means, prefer pictures, audios, charts, and diagrams, and they do well, in learning in that method. Auditory learners are those who learn best through listening and discussions. And kinesthetics learners are those who learn by doing, hands-on activities. So knowing your child's learning style also matters. The good thing with most of these homeschooling curriculums, they don't start with young children. Most start with the age of 5 onwards. And at this point, you are able to know, or you can pick here and there what can work for your child. So that is it in a nutshell. I know you are able now to know where to start from, what to start looking at, and so that you are able to come up with the best curriculum for your child. So we will continue from here on our part 2.